see, I'm wearing an original Southern Electric over jacket thing. This was the workwear that would have been worn around about the time this vehicle was in service. I thought I'd wear it because I wanted to give just a little bit of commentary and discussion on the use of 1-ton Land Rovers by Southern Electricity Board. So SEB, as we call them, big users of Land Rovers going back certainly to the Series 1 era. The oldest photograph I've seen is of a Series 1 long wheelbase pickup that they used. They definitely had Series 2s, certainly one of which survives into 2A. They were mainly using 4-cylinder petrol 2A 109s. Early vehicles were truck cabs with 3/4 tilts before giving way to hard tops from about 1961, 62, thereabouts. Initially, vehicles we can identify because they were ordered in a colour called Verona Green, which is a dark sort of emerald green colour. Very nice colour. That then changed in 1966. They went to the Atlantic green colour scheme, which this vehicle is in. And then when Land Rover announced the 1-ton version of the 109, SEB were one of the first customers. The first few vehicles were all deep bronze green and dispatched to Windmill and Lewis at Bristol. They may have been vehicles for South West Electricity Board, but I've never been able to confirm that. But from, I think, about vehicle number 7 or 8 or so, they were SEB green. So there were a fair few 1-tons in SEB green, probably a mix of hard tops and chassis cabs or pickups for mounting cherry pickers on. Those SEB green vehicles continued into production until about 1970-ish, when they appeared to have gone to just using the standard Land Rover light green. They're recorded in the build book as light green. Whether this again was a cost saving measure, hard to say. But I would think so. It would have been an extra cost option to have the special paint. Most of the later vehicles also seem to have had standard limestone roof and sides rather than overall green, which had been the case in the earlier vehicles. SEB also often had matching wheel rims, so the wheels were green as well, which was unusual. So some years ago I met a chap at a vehicle show who'd been a member of staff of SEB. He worked at the vehicle workshop at Basingstoke, I believe. And he said they bought 1-tons purely because they were better off-road than the standard Land Rover. Tractor coming. So get out of the way. He said they bought them because they were better off-road, which is very true. They'd been using forward controls by this point, and were probably quite pleased with the off-road performance of the forward controls. similar vehicles in there, or similar performance from their standard Land Rovers. And they need full control just for knocking about doing normal work. So it makes sense. Also very good for cherry picker conversions. So as I said, they started out buying some of the first 2As. They continued buying right through to the Series 3 era. Indeed, the last Series 3 1-tons built, the last sort of 30 or 40 or so, were all light green before dispatched to Henleys London. And it appears to be that Henleys were the dealer of choice for S&P. So they bought plenty of 2As, lots of Series 3s. And indeed the 1-ton was effectively the standard Land Rover for SEV. They had a few short wheelbase vehicles for lifeline charge hand use. They also had a few standard 3/4 ton 109s, but certainly not very many. So throughout the sort of 70s, the 1-ton was the standard vehicle. Many of the later SEB Series 3s at least were 1-tons on 750/16 tyres, still with the 1-ton gearbox. They use a rev limiting rotor arm, so they'd only do 50 miles an hour just to prevent over revving the engine. When Land Rover stopped making the 1-ton, certainly the last UK vehicles were towards the end of 1976. Full production ended in 77. The last later vehicles being for export. 76 were the last UK vehicles. They all went to SEB. So that then created a problem because Land Rover didn't make them anymore. So SEB struggling to know what to replace them with. They tried various things. 4-wheel drive Bedford vans was one. They imported Russian UAZ 452 Mechanica vans. I think they had 19 of them. They tried stage 1 V8 Land Rovers, but the ultimate replacement was the Land Rover 127 with the V8s. Specially adapted for SEB use, with electric winch, ladder rack, trunk compartment heater, making a bespoke vehicle with a 4 or 5 man crew, and I believe a 650 kilo payload. This is also why the 1-tons that SEB had all seem to have been sold off starting in 1984, when the 1-ton and that was the 127 appeared. This vehicle was sold off in late 1984. A cherry picker was sold off in 1985. So being replaced by 127s. The cherry picker would have probably been replaced by a 6-wheel drive 110 V8s. Indeed, there were also 110 V8 hardtops. So, considering SEB had the vast majority of the 1-ton production, at least half, possibly more, I've yet to really sit down and do the calculations. But they definitely have the lion's share. The likelihood is any surviving ones, a lot are ex-SEB. Quite a few are ex-breakdown trucks as well. Probably because they were very useful bits of kit well into the late 80s. So if you've got a 1-ton, yeah, a good chance it's an SEB one. One easy way to tell is SEB almost always, certainly on the from about 1967 onwards, they always had sides repeaters for the indicators wheel arches, which is a very, very rare option at the time. Usually as well, the hard subsoil would always have an air vent in the roof, and obviously the SCB green or light green paint. So if you know of one, let me know. I mean, any of them. I'm also interested in, the 110s, 90s, 127s, also the earlier Series 2s, 2As, the Series 1s that they're still out there. But it's just a little bit of a potted history, which hopefully you'll find of some interest. Just a little showcase or snapshot of how these things were used. Obviously at the time they were a public utility. Purchase cost wasn't an issue, fuel cost wasn't a big problem, it was to get the job done, and they were deemed to be the best tools for the job. A few other boards did have a few. East Midlands had a handful, as I say, possibly Southwest, but not confirmed. But yeah, if you know more, any info, please do let me know, drop a comment, give us a like and a follow, helps the channel grow and reach